He always thought secrets were meant to stay buried until the lake decided to drag them out. It started with a laugh, an innocent touch, and suddenly I wasn't just fishing with my best friend. I was wrestling with years of feelings I had no right to feel. The weekend was supposed to be simple. A small cabin by the lake, a couple of fishing rods, beer chilling in the cooler, and endless hours away from the suffocating routine of my dental practice. I had promised myself this was just about friendship, about breathing, about forgetting. But when Ethan grinned at me, sunlight glinting off the water, it was impossible to forget. He'd always been the reckless one, leaning too far off the edge of the boat, teasing me about being uptight, making jokes that cut sharp but always left me smiling in spite of myself. And I'd always been the safe one, the one who had to remind him not to drink too much before starting the engine, the one who picked up the pieces when he got his heart broken, again and again, the one who never said out loud what I really wanted. I cast the line into the lake, pretending to focus on the bobber dancing lazily on the surface. My chest felt tight, the way it always did when we were alone too long. "So, Doc." Ethan leaned back against the side of the boat, stretching in that careless way that made his t-shirt ride up, flashing a strip of skin. "How's life pulling teeth all week? You ever think maybe you need more excitement? Something that makes your heart race?" My throat went dry. "Fishing with you is plenty exciting." He laughed. That deep, warm sound that somehow always made me ache. "You're such a liar. You've been hiding behind that dentist's chair since college. You need something real, something messy." His gaze caught mine, holding it longer than it should have. "Don't you ever get tired of pretending?" My hand clenched on the rod. Maybe he didn't mean anything by it. Ethan never seemed to measure his words the way I did. But the way he said pretending cut too close. Too dangerous. I forced a smile. "Not everyone wants messy." "Bullshit." He shot back instantly. "Everyone wants messy. That's what makes it real." I wanted to tell him the truth then. That the realest thing I'd ever felt was the way my stomach flipped when his shoulder brushed mine. That the mess I craved was the one person I'd convinced myself I could never have. But instead, I reeled in silence, watching the sun dip lower behind the trees. The lake was calm, but inside me, everything churned. That night, the cabin was quiet except for the creak of wood settling. Ethan had built the fire, his face glowing orange as he sat on the rug with a beer dangling loosely from his fingers. I sat on the couch, trying not to stare, trying not to imagine things that would ruin everything. "You ever think about us?" Ethan asked suddenly, like he was commenting on the weather. My heart stopped. "Us?" "Yeah. You and me." He turned to face me, his eyes a little glassy from the beer but steady. Too steady. "We've been through everything. High school, college, breakups, jobs. Still here. Don't you ever think, maybe there's more?" I froze. The fire popped between us. For years I had built walls. Careful little bricks of excuses. He was straight. He didn't feel that way. I'd ruin our friendship. It wasn't worth the risk. But in that moment, the wall cracked. "Ethan," my voice was barely a whisper. "Don't." He frowned. "Don't what?" "Don't say things you don't mean." What if I do mean it? His tone was sharp now, frustrated. What if I've been waiting for you to stop hiding and just admit it? My chest burned. Couldn't breathe. I stood, pacing toward the window just to escape the weight of his gaze. You don't know what you're saying. You've had too much to drink. He let out a bitter laugh. There it is. You always run. Always pretend you don't feel it. But I see it. You think I don't notice the way you look at me. I turned, heat flooding my face. Stop it. Why? He stood too, stepping closer, anger mixing with something raw, something vulnerable. Tell me why we can't talk about it. Tell me why I can't want my best friend. The words hit like a strike of lightning. Want. My knees nearly gave out. But fear was stronger. Because it'll ruin everything. I whispered. His expression softened. Hurt flickering in his eyes. Maybe everything needs to change. We stood there. The fire crackling behind us. The silence louder than any confession. My heart was screaming at me to cross the distance. To take what I had dreamed about for years. But my fear kept me frozen. A coward trapped in my own skin. Ethan shook his head finally. Like he'd expected this all along. He grabbed his jacket from the chair and headed for the door. Good night, Doc, he said flatly. And then he was gone, leaving me alone with the fire and the weight of everything unsaid. The next morning, he was quiet. Too quiet. He busied himself with packing the cooler, checking the engine on the boat, refusing to meet my eyes. And I hated myself for letting him slip away. Hated how my silence had built the very distance I feared. The day stretched long, heavy with things we didn't say. Out on the lake again, I watched him, his jaw tight, his movements clipped. The easy laughter from yesterday was gone. Finally, I couldn't take it. My voice cracked when I spoke. Ethan, he didn't look at me. Don't. It's fine. But it wasn't fine. And if I didn't break, I'd lose him. I swallowed hard, my hands shaking on the rod. I can't stop thinking about you. That made him pause. Slowly, he turned, his eyes searching mine. For a moment, neither of us moved, as if the whole lake was holding its breath. I forced the words out, raw and trembling. You're not just my best friend. You never were. And I'm so damn scared of what that means. But I can't lie anymore. His lips parted. Surprise softening into something else, something I'd seen 1,000 times but never dared to believe. And then, as if the years of silence shattered in one heartbeat, he smiled. A small, broken, beautiful smile. Finally, he whispered. Ethan's smile was hesitant at first, like he didn't dare believe I had finally said the words out loud. And maybe I didn't dare believe it either. But in the quiet of that lake, with the boat rocking gently beneath us, something in me cracked wide open. He set his rod down slowly, then reached over and brushed his fingers against mine. It wasn't a bold grab or a demanding pull, it was the lightest touch. But it felt like 1,000 doors flying open. You have no idea, he murmured, voice low and rough. How long I've been waiting for you to say that. I swallowed, my throat tight. I thought you didn't. He cut me off with a small, almost pained laugh. God, Matt, you think I would have stuck around all these years if I didn't? The world tilted. My heart raced so hard I could barely hear anything else. But, you dated girls. I dated anyone who wasn't you, he said simply. His hand finally closed over mine, firm and sure. Because I was too afraid you'd never feel the same. The silence that followed wasn't awkward this time. It was heavy. Yes. But in the way a dam is heavy right before it bursts. And then I couldn't stop myself. I leaned in. Just a fraction. Just enough to breathe the same air. Enough for my lips to hover close to his. His breath hitched. His thumb grazing over my knuckles like permission. The kiss was inevitable. Years of silence. Years of longing. Years of pretending collapsed into that single, trembling press of lips. It wasn't perfect. It was messy and desperate. Clumsy from how badly we both wanted it. But it was real. God, it was real. When we pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. Both of us breathing hard like we'd run a marathon. His grin spread, wide and boyish. The Ethan I knew mixed with someone entirely new. Messy enough for you, Doc, he whispered. I laughed, tears pricking my eyes. Yeah, messy enough. That night, back at the cabin, things felt different. We didn't rush. We didn't need to. Instead, we sat by the fire again. But this time I wasn't across the room. I was next to him, our shoulders pressed together. His hand laced with mine as if it had always belonged there. Ethan stared into the flames, his expression softer than I'd ever seen. You know, I used to think I'd lose you if I ever said anything. That one wrong word would blow up everything we had. I nodded. I thought the same. But maybe, he paused, glancing at me with a small smile. Maybe we were just too damn stubborn to realize we wanted the same thing. I leaned against him, letting my head rest briefly on his shoulder. The fire crackled, wrapping us in warmth. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe without fear. Of course, life didn't magically become easier just because we kissed on a lake. The next morning brought reality, creeping in like the fog rolling over the water. I woke up to find Ethan already outside, sitting on the edge of the dock with his feet dangling over the water. I joined him, settling quietly beside him. The air was cool, fresh with the scent of pine. You're thinking too much again, he said without looking at me. Can you blame me? I murmured. What happens now? We go back to our lives, to the city. What do we tell people? What if this ruins? He turned to me sharply. Stop. Don't go there. Not today. I blinked. Ethan, no, he said firmly, his hand reaching out to grip mine. We're not ruining this moment with what-ifs. For once, can we just be? His eyes held mine, steady and unshakable. And in that moment, I realized something. The future didn't scare him. He wasn't worried about labels or whispers or the unknown. He had chosen me, and that was enough. So I nodded, letting myself lean into the certainty of his grip. Okay, just be. We spent the rest of the weekend in a rhythm that felt new and yet achingly familiar. Fishing by day, laughing too loudly when one of us failed to catch anything, cooking simple meals, him teasing me about how I couldn't grill to save my life, falling asleep on the same couch, his arm thrown over me carelessly, like it had always belonged there. But beneath it all, there was a softness neither of us dared to name. The way our eyes lingered longer than before. The way our laughter broke into quiet moments of just looking. Really looking. And seeing the truth that had always been there. On the last night, the sky stretched wide above us, full of stars. We sat on the deck in silence, beers in hand, the lake shimmering under the moonlight. Ethan finally broke the quiet. You know, you once told me you hated fishing. I laughed softly. I do. Then why do you always come with me? I glanced at him, my chest tightening. Because it was never about the fishing. The look he gave me in return was worth every year of silence. Every moment of fear. He set his beer down and leaned over, kissing me slow this time. Not rushed. Not desperate. Just steady. Certain. And warm. And for once, I didn't hold back. When Monday came, we packed up the cabin and drove back toward the city. But everything was different. His hand brushed mine on the gearshift and stayed there. We didn't talk about what people might say, about how complicated it could get. We didn't need to. As we hit the highway, Ethan glanced at me with that lopsided grin that had always been my undoing. You realize you're stuck with me now, right? I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. I think I can live with that. And I meant it. Because for the first time, I wasn't hiding anymore. For the first time, I wasn't just his best friend. I was his. And he was mine. And that was enough. The lake faded in the rearview mirror. But the memory of that weekend never left me. It became the beginning of something neither of us had dared to believe possible. Messy. Yes. Scary. Absolutely. But real. And maybe Ethan was right all along. Maybe the only way to live was to stop pretending and finally let yourself want the messy, beautiful truth. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.